Hello, everyone. I love how Zoom lets you know now that you're about to go live on your Facebook page.
I
Good
appreciate
morning.
it.
Yeah, me too. It's like, oh, gotcha. As it kind of says on our side of the screen, not to you guys out there in Facebook land. I am so excited, first of all, and so incredibly grateful that you tune in to watch the MYBC virtual bookstore author series. Before we came on, I was just chatting with Morgan, our guest author tonight, how we have to keep each other in our creativity. We have to keep whether it's our minds in writing a book, or it's our hands creating art, or it's our bodies going out and doing great things to change the world, to make a difference in this world. So this is the MYBC virtual bookstore series, started back in December. I've had 36 authors. Yesterday was National Author Day. Since December, that I have chatted with, from children's books to cookbooks to get the bullshit out of your life books tonight. So good evening, Morgan. And I'm going to let you say your last name because I just know I'm going to mess it up.
Morgan Chonis.
Chonis. So Morgan
Yep.
Chonis, where are you in this big blue marble this evening?
I am currently in Tucson, Arizona at my mom's house. I'm in town visiting some family and enjoying all of this beautiful energy of this book launch. So I wanted to be close to family and, enjoying the pizza and the home cooked meals. And
How did you
yes,
get pizza and I don't have pizza on my side?
family owns a pizza place in Tucson. So it's,
Oh my God,
yeah.
who loves a good pizza? What is your nationality?
Greek.
Ooh, that's interesting. Is
Yep.
it Greek inspired? I know we're going away from the book for a second, but I'm a chef by trade. A million years ago, I went to culinary school. So when someone starts talking restaurant talk, and it piques my interest.
It's actually traditional. I would say closest to like a New York style hand tossed pizza, all fresh ingredients, homemade dough, homemade sauce, you name it. I am a pizza snob and it is the best that I've had, but I am biased.
Just changed there for a second. I looked like I was a ghost. I wanted to come back from being the ghost of a book reader from the past to a present person. So Morgan, it is your book launch. So let's get into, before we get into the title, let's get into a little bit of the backstory of Morgan, or her story of Morgan, and let us know who you are.
So I grew up very entrepreneurial inclined. My dad owned the restaurant, like I just mentioned. I started working when I was 12. My mom was in real estate for 30 plus years and very heavily in the nonprofit space. So
Okay.
I got introduced to events very young. And so I would help as a PA at these events that she was doing, these fundraising events. I went to college for photography. And so I became an event photographer for a little while. And then after college, I really found myself in this interesting niche of helping other people grow and scale their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And especially those people who are creatives. So I loved your intro talking about supporting ourselves and staying in our creative energy. And so I believe I have this gift of being left and right dominant brained. And
Okay.
so I have that creative flow, but I also have the structure and like the analytical mindset. So I work really great with other creative individuals who want to go independent or are leaving their corporate job or starting their own small business. And the structure of all of that, the really masculine energy type stuff, makes their head want to explode.
Yes.
So I thrive in that space. And so I transitioned from doing academic success coaching, was what I did as a job through college.
What does that mean? That's a terminology I've never heard before. What is that?
So I worked in for-profit education as basically in the student services department. So when you go to a college or university or a trade school, I was the person who would be your advisor to help you through any issues that you had. So that really kick-started this one-on-one coaching, success coaching, that turned into now a huge part of my business.
Right.
And really what that meant was I love getting to know people's why, getting to the nitty gritty of why do you want to put yourself out there? Why I worked at a few institutions, which will remain nameless, who by the time they signed their life over, made the deal with the devil, I was going to make damn sure they got to graduation. So that accountability, that support system. And so then that also translated into helping these people grow their businesses. So that's really kind of my backstory. And then I found myself by a series of divine events, working in events myself, primarily in motorsports and concerts, which then led to opening my own event management company with a business partner, which was very successful. I had this big, beautiful life, which then led to this downfall of my bottom, which leads to the book.
Wow.
That's the one Cliff Notes.
Yeah, the Cliff Notes or Reader's Digest version, as they say. Though with this particular title, that does sound, for lack of a better word, very fluffy.
Yeah.
And in the write-up of the book on Amazon, I have not got a copy yet, and I'm sure there's going to be one coming in the mail sometime soon when I order it. From the description of this book, there is some tough words right off the bat that you wouldn't connect to, oh, I help people go through school, and oh, I had my own company, and I really helped coach some people. And I want to unpack a couple of them because a couple of them are triggering words for myself.
Okay.
And the name of your book, I'm going to allow you to say the title, and then I'm going to go into these incredible words that describe your book.
The book is called Unravel the Bullshit.
Oh, love that title. Unravel. I can just picture grandma sitting there with her old sweater and pulling it apart and then wanting to create something new. But it starts here with one woman's story of disappointment. Let's unpack that word disappointment, because it sounded like you were clicking along. Things were like warm and squishy. You were on top of the world. How do you work the word disappointment into that?
So that's the thing about the surface being warm and squishy and bright and shiny. It's often just the surface. And so this idea of disappointment means prior to that, there was expectations. One thing I know from working a 12-step program is that expectations are the sure path to resentment. And that leads to disappointment. And so for me, a huge part of this story is unraveling this societal conditioning of what it means to be successful. So the book is actually written in 3 parts. Part 1 is the conditioning, part 2 is the crumbling, and part 3 is the phoenix.
Wow. Okay. This is just so good. So good.
So really this idea of disappointment was that I had played my good girl role so well that I had these expectations of myself that I would have this big, bright, shiny life and be successful, or, what I thought that meant. But I was miserable inside. I was so dark and miserable inside. I was great at putting on this bright, shiny face and doing these really beautiful things, helping other people, doing all of these things. And I thought that would translate internally, but it doesn't. I have to fill my own cup, right? That's why they say you've got to put on your oxygen mask first. But when you have this big shiny life and everything is external, that's really where that disappointment and that crumbling came for me. Was I was doing nothing to fulfill my cup other than surface level shit.
So let's continue with that analogy of cup. And in this description, it talks about addiction, and we're going to unpack that. You just said the 12-step program. So what does that cup, filling your cup versus utilizing the cup to fill it up to work against that disappointment in life?
Currently or back then?
Back then, like this in the conditioning, and it's just so. And like you said, over caffeinating. So I'm a little worried about my French press in the morning. and stimulating and overcompensating. You did everything you could to ignore the body's attempt to slow you down. Wow, slow you down. So what were some
Yeah.
of the things that you did that you were conditioned to do that prevented you from slowing down?
So it really started for me in high school, which is where the addiction first kicked in. I had two broken vertebrae, and I had scholarships to play soccer in college. All of that was abruptly ended, and I got the first taste of doctor prescribed pharmaceutical medications. We lost a really good friend my junior year of high school. And as one does in high school, when you lose someone, you throw an honorary kegger, in their honor. And that was the first time I mixed pills and alcohol. And it was that moment that I finally felt like I could breathe and I wasn't crawling in my skin. And that's an addiction that I chased for a decade before I got sober. And nothing, any addict will attest, nothing's ever matches that first high or that first drink or that first drug. And so it really started then for me. And so I thought then, okay, I got the case of the shoulds, like I had built my whole life on being this athlete. I knew where I was going to college. I was going to play on the national women's team. We had this plan. And then I got an injury. And so now it's like, okay, I should go to college. I should work 3 jobs to put myself through college. I should, all these shoulds. And that's when the numbing really began because I was so far out of alignment, even from then. So I got sober when I was 25. I white knuckled it for a year and a half before I got into my first 12-step program. I thought it was a religious thing. I wanted no part of that. Turns out that's not the case. I don't advise going down that path, thinking you can do it yourself. It's not a joyous, free life. And
I think there's even a lesson in there that we're not supposed to go through life by ourselves.
In general, ever.
Yes.
But this feeling like my actions and my life didn't match up to this like good girl persona I was conditioned to be, and all of these shoulds. I kept doing the things I should do, but I just kept withdrawing from this cup, to go back to your original question, with nothing left to give. So then it starts pulling from other sources of my body, health, my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health, all completely non-existent. And then I got into a 12-step program, and my life started to become fulfilled again. And then I started my companies, and I had my life got really big and my program got really small. And that's how that spiral, like my darkest bottom was in sobriety.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had all the tools, but I was not it's all, I always say everything's always about willingness and intention, right?
Right.
I wasn't willing to keep using these tools I had because I felt like I had this idea of who I needed to be successful, especially in New York, especially in a male-dominated industry. Having a business partner who had already had a successful career before me, and here I come, this 20-something ambitious, bright-eyed girl ready to conquer the world. I had all these ideas of these shoulds. And it just led to this really small program and this really big life. And I had all the things and stuff and couldn't figure out why I was so depressed and miserable.
Wow. The illusion, I think in analogies, I think in pictures when people talk words to me, that when you say that in sobriety, you're at your darkest place and you had the tools that I've used the tool, the foundation should be there. Boom. I use the hammer, I use the steps, I've got it all. Okay.
Why am I not here?
Why isn't it, why isn't it there? And so much so, if we say the maintenance to a house, a home builder builds the house for you to your specifications. Let's call it the 12-step program, Build Your Life. And then he hands you the keys, and it's like, he doesn't come back to make sure the pipes are running well, or that you clean the carpets, or you clean the bathroom and that sort of stuff. That's up to you to pick up your own tool in order to keep your life going. So that's fascinating, Morgan. I've never heard of somebody say that their darkest time was at the bottom of sobriety. That's wow. So the next section is, you said you went from the good girl to it crumbling. What was the crumble?
I was so dark and so miserable at the height of what should have been the success of my career, and I was suicidal. I started smoking. I never picked up a drink. That's the one thing I did not do. But I would sit and I would smoke 3 or 4 cigarettes per sitting, just to like calm down enough. And so when you think about like, why does one go have a smoke break? It's to inhale, it's to recenter, it's to reground, like we can do that with breath work without, the nicotine and the tobacco and the addiction. But I can't even say I didn't know that. I chose not to, like I'll take full responsibility for my side of the street. I chose actively every day to not pick up those tools. I thought about it every day. I mean, I even carried my step work around in my backpack. It was a conscious choice not to. Because I felt like building this success was more important. Like, this is going to set me up. And then when I have, how often we hear that when I have the things, when I have the money, when I have the person, when I have the marriage, when I have the car, everything will be better. And it's like, no, like I have to be okay inside for me, for any of it to function. And I wasn't.
You were using other people's tools.
100%.
In order to build. And it's hard to, I would say it's easy to use someone else's tool. And then if it doesn't get built the way that you wanted to build with that tool, you go, but it's your fault. But it's I think that like that, that's so easy to blame game when it's my hammer building my little bird house and it falls apart. Oh my gosh, it's my skills. But if I'm helping you, but you've given me the hammer, but you want me to build the birdhouse, but it's like, you know what? It's your hammer. It's not me that did it. It's not me why it didn't get built properly. This is just flipping it on its head. And when I see some of the reviews of the book, it's just, it's magical. It speaks to so many people's lives, and they can envision themselves in it. So let's go to the Phoenix. How does one from the crumble come back up to be the Phoenix that you are today?
So really, you hit the nail on the head. And the word that comes to mind is the victimhood mindset. So really, the difference between that point of crumbling and staying in that darkness, or heaven forbid, like actually following through with suicide or something, a relapse or whatever that is for you. For me, it happened to be that I was suicidal. I got put on, I heard the words out of my mouth to my best friend and my sponsor, and I agreed to go back on antidepressants, which is something I had done young in my life. And I swore off, and I heard what came out of my mouth, and I was like, okay, fine. And so, one, we hear in recovery a lot, sometimes we need outside help. And that does not translate to being any sort of failure. Sometimes there are real chemical imbalances that outside help, whether it be therapy, breath work, other spiritual work. There's so many other things we can also explore before we go down the route of pharmaceutical medication. That's a whole nother tangent we can get on someday. But I will be the first to admit and say that those pills absolutely saved my life.
Okay.
So I will never tell someone don't do it, or that it's bullshit or whatever. Do I think there's other ways? Would I choose a different way now? I don't think I would do it different then, because I wasn't willing. But how you go from the crumbling to the Phoenix is you become willing to put down that victim mindset. It is an active choice. And so some people have this, like, you snap out of it, you have this white light experience, and you're like, I'm fucking done. You wake up one day and you change, and it's a choice. But ultimately, it comes down to you either stay in the darkness and in the conditioning and the victim mindset and the blame and believing all these societal expectations and that you're a failure because they're not in alignment with you. When in reality, maybe those conditionings are out of alignment. Maybe that's not who I'm willing to be. So this idea of unraveling the bullshit is really the work of stepping into this phoenix and what I like to call self-mastery. And so this unraveling is, we hear so often, the doing the work. That's what I refer to as the unraveling. So you become the phoenix by becoming willing to stop and choose a different path.
Oh, I'm not sure if you're aware that tomorrow is National Stress Awareness Day around the globe. So I highly encourage you on your social media to promote your book connected to this. So I've been having conversations. There's one of my clients, Robert Mandelson of Powerful Play Experiences, and he does positive play type stuff to bring down the stress or turn that stress inside out. And what comes to mind for corporation is, right now they believe that reaching out is a sign of weakness to the company or the team. If you're on a team sport, they'll reaching out, no, we can power through it. And to me, the paradigm shift that I see from you, that Phoenix, there's great strength to reach out. Like, you still have that strength
in the vulnerability,
reach out to say, I am weak. I am weak.
Or I need help.
Yeah, I need help.
And there's power in that vulnerability. And so that's so much of this deconditioning that is happening on a collective level, especially when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, like wounded masculine, and not, which doesn't mean male or female. We all have both. But this idea of this wounded masculine and wounded feminine is the work of unraveling all of this, so we can step into like this divine paradigm shift that's happening in the collective right now. And I think more and more people are feeling it and are starting to wake up to it, to, oh, I can choose different. Oh, I can have a differing opinion. I can turn the lens on some of these things, these stereotypes, these stigmas, these taboo conversations. But you're exactly right. That's why I was over-caffeinating, overcompensating, because it wasn't okay to be the CEO or the head of this giant event in New York or any of this thing and have issues. There's one story I share in the book where I have a full-blown panic attack walking from my apartment to my event site in Brooklyn. And I called my business partner and he's like, you're fine. You probably just put too much cayenne in your juice this morning. And I didn't know if I was having a heart attack, a panic attack, if I was making it all up. And I lost all feeling in my arms, my legs. I dropped my bag and I was just like clammy and sweaty. Like, I had a full blown, I had never had like that physical of a panic attack. But what I love to share is that our body communicates with us. And so all of this, the reason I chose to share my story rather than to put out a like how to or a self-help, one of the best things I've learned in recovery is when I share my experience, strength, and hope, someone else can grab onto the little nugget. And usually it's just a tiny nugget that they resonate with when they're like, oh, and then they're willing to think about their story. So my intention is to bear my whole heart out vulnerably in the intention of being the mirror for others. And so in the book, there's self-reflection opportunities after each part, which are like journal prompts. So just to start probe you on, if you're willing at the end of this section to look at yourself, here's a couple of questions, just and nothing too huge and deep, but just an introduction to, are you willing to start looking at yourself? Because I love to say it only takes a tiny sliver of willingness for the door to just like blast open. You just have to literally unlock the door, and that's what it takes. And it takes what it takes. Sometimes we're not ready. initially, or we'll read a book, or we'll do a course, or we'll go to a seminar or something, and we'll be like, yeah, and then we'll go home and be like, and then we don't touch it again, or we don't touch it for a year or something. But that seed is planted. You know what I mean?
It's so good. I was having this conversation with a fellow. I volunteer at Night Shift Ministries, and it's a street ministry. And the people that come for meal, they feed people 365 days a year. Beautiful. My feeling for this is when we make a good like in that word good, a good sandwich, or a big beautiful bowl of soup, and they ingest it and they go, wow, that was really good. That spark of, oh, so that's what good feels like when you're saying about that little nugget, it's like, oh, so that's the point of reference of good. I feel full. I feel that it wasn't crappy food. I feel I was treated nicely when they handed me my sandwich and my bowl of soup and my cup of coffee, and the smile that was received. And it's in that minute or 30 seconds that it imprints that word good, because so many people are treated or conditioned to be bad in that moment. Oh, you should be really grateful you're eating tonight. And like that whole layer of expectation that's put on eating. And in that moment, if we're able just to kind of flip that around to go, oh, so wow, that was really good. That was really good. And when they go make a decision, they've got a point of reference.
Exactly.
Point of reference to what good is. And your story is absolutely beautiful. We need to do a bit of a shout out to Carrie Stevenson, who connected us up, who's your publisher. And I was so excited to have her on a couple of 3 weeks ago to know what the role of a publisher is. So I love to wrap this up to give the author. The last question I love to ask is, who should have this book either given to them or in their hands? Who's this book for, Morgan?
My gut instinct, of course, is to say everyone. Okay. But if I truly had to pick one person, I would say the person who maybe has lost hope, or they're at that bottom, or they're flirting with that bottom, or they're feeling stuck and just so out of alignment and don't know where to turn or what to do. That would be the person I would love this book to be gifted to, with a not an intention of you have a problem, this is going to fix it, but I see you, I honor you, I love you, I hope you find a glimmer of hope in this book, something like that. That gives me goosebumps. That was good.
that was so good, because you gave me goosebumps on this side and I almost wanted to cry, because that means you are delivering the gift with love and not conditioning them with an expectation. And that's beautiful, because we all have tons of books around us. And oh my gosh, Morgan, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for taking the wherewithal of pen to paper, fingers to keyboard, to bring about her story into the pages of Unravel the Bullshit. I'm saying that right? Unravel the Bullshit.
Unravel the Bullshit.
The name of your book. So you heard Morgan's story, and if it resonated with you or somebody in your sphere, or maybe you're in counseling and it's maybe a softer approach of a book to have in your library, Morgan, afterwards, I'll make sure I put the Amazon link in the chat afterwards. And I always fail to say at the beginning of my little talks here that we go Facebook Live, that if you have any questions for Morgan, please put them into the comments section, and Morgan will come back and answer any questions that you may have. I do love to stay present for the people that I'm chatting with. To me, it shows respect. It shows good intention, because their creativity is being shone up, but a big spotlight is being shone upon it. So I am, again, so grateful to you, my friend. You brought out a fresh approach to a story that needs to be told out there in the world. So thank you so much. Tune in next Tuesday. Oh, yes, yes. Tune in next Tuesday night where I interview yet another person that's creativity who's taken pen to paper or fingers to keyboard to bring their story to a book. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.